Hello, welcome back to this random table where I fix stuff. Today we got this Philco 42-340, and in these little Philco model numbers, the first two digits are the model year, so it's a 1942 model year, which means it was actually released in the middle of 1941, because they used to release radio models like cars, where they released the next model year halfway through the current year. This is very similar to another one that I have, which I don't remember the number for that one off the top of my head, but that one has the push buttons here and it has an extra shortwave band. And that one has a very good performance, so I'm hoping that this one will also have very good performance. The outside case looks basically the same except for that one having the push buttons on it. You can see the paint is starting to come off in a couple of places. It's coming off on the black trim here and there. But luckily, the wood grain here, because I'm pretty sure this is fake painted on wood grain, this looks in pretty good shape. Even around where the knobs are, you can see that none of the decals are really rubbed off, they're just a little bit dirty. This one I'm not going to turn on before I take it apart, because in these ones, they have across the line caps inside a Bakelite container, and I've heard that those are known to explode and blow up the Bakelite container, so this one we will take apart before turning on and see if we can replace at least those caps before we power it up. Dirt came out of that one. Let's pop the knobs off here. Let's see, some of the knobs have been rubbing a little bit, but they haven't rubbed too much off, so that's good. Just a little bit of white remaining there. That one's a bit of a scratch though. The decals are pretty dirty. You can see volume, but that's the band switch block, has shortwave, dial tuning, on, off, and bass. Just turn this around. These radios do not have backs. There's no screw holes or anything for a back to go in. They have this nice, solid, heavy-duty copper antenna. Need to take out in order for the radio to come out. So there's these little wood screws in it. First we can take these connectors off here. I should use the right screwdriver, but this will do. This one's a ground terminal if you want to add a ground to the chassis. Disconnect those. And take out 2 wood screws. These use the octal tubes. Not sure if you can tell that from here, but all octal tubes in these radios. Not octal, loctal, that's what I meant to say, loctal. They were originally designed for car radios, so they went, oops, maybe there's some screws in the top too. I think there might be. Yep, there's one right there. I can see to get it. There we go. You can see it's nice heavy duty solid copper wire. Some corrosion on the bottom, but not too bad. Just set that off to the side, and now should be some bolts in the bottom here. So you can't really see the whole thing. Yeah, you can see all of them. bit of corrosion on those bolts. They're kind of yellow. We can hold this up a little bit while I take these up so it doesn't just fall down. Now, the chassis should just slide out of here. It's not really a good place to grab it, unfortunately. It's pretty tight up against the sides of the cabinet. Slide that out. Set this off to the side. You can have a look. Looks like the dial cord here is unattached. It doesn't really necessarily seem broken, just not connected. See, it's kind of unwrapped from the wheel here. I think actually looks a little bit bent too. Not sure. See if we can just rewrap this around somewhat. Something is twisted up here. This is supposed to be on this side. There we go. That might have gone like that. Okay. So you can see, but yeah, that works. Okay. So that was an easy fix at least. Sometimes these dial cords can be a bit of a pain. This one's not broken, it just must have somehow lost tension or something and came off. You know, maybe someone tried turning the wheel too far or something that derailed it, but it seems okay now. It's probably the end of this capacitor is fully open, so that's the end of the travel, so that's fine. Okay, so dial cord's fixed. Take a look at the front. I got some foam here on the speaker that's kind of falling apart, so I'm going to have to glue that back on a little bit. Right now it looks like it's sitting on the cone, which is probably not the best place for it, so look into that. But first, let's flip this up. See that someone's put some tape on the power cord, electrical tape. Not sure if you noticed that. Got some tape here on the cord, so you might have to either replace or rewire that, just because you'd think they would have put like a rubber grommet or something in there, but it looks like it's just bare metal. Or it could have had a rubber grommet and it disintegrated over the years, got hard and fell to pieces. It's just the rubber cord rubbing on the metal chassis, so someone put some tape on it, so we might have to investigate that. Let's flip this up. Okay, so this is, you can see, of course it's completely, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. Inside this block are two across the line capacitors, and I've heard that if these short, they can explode and then blow the side of the Bakelite block out. So we want to avoid that. So before we even plug this in, I'm going to replace these capacitors in here, just to avoid that. Otherwise, there's a couple paper capacitors. It doesn't look like there's too many. And some of these electrolytics. This doesn't have a big can electrolytic on the top. If you look at the top of the chassis, it's just the optical tubes, IF transformers, and this is the power transformer. You got two diodes on either side. So, I think the first order of business is to get these replaced, and then we can probably power it up and see what it does. and if necessary, go on and replace anything else that needs to be done. Probably replace these electrolytics before we're done, and probably the paper ones too. I mean, these are 1941, so definitely due for replacement, I'd say, for these paper ones. Sometimes you can get lucky and the paper ones will still be good, but ones these old, maybe we'll just replace them. There's not even that many, so. Okay, we'll start here and see where we go from there. Okay, so I've got the, my camera's not functioning properly. There we go. I've got the capacitors replaced in this little Bakelite block, got it started back in, reattached the cord without the electrical tape. I'm not sure if that electrical tape was actually necessary, because the way they've got the hole stamped in the chassis here, it kind of like flares out on the inside. So I think that was intended that you wouldn't need a rubber grommet. I don't have a rubber grommet to put in there, so I can show you what I'm talking about. Focus. So see how the metal like flares out there? So I think that was intended to be like to mitigate the sharp edge. What I did is I just wrapped a little bit of electrical tape around the inside of that hole just for some added protection. I don't really think it's necessary, but it's something at least. So anyway, let's get this set back down. Get this set back down. Try it out. Get the antenna hooked back up. Oh, by the way, these are the capacitors that came out of that. Just a lot of tar. This is only some of it. I've cleaned the rest of it up. And just two little capacitors there. So if those short, because they're directly across the line, they can blow out the side of that block. Framing a little bit better here. Okay, so let me get the antenna. I'll hook that back up because this probably isn't going to produce anything without the antenna attached. Just lightly attach that back there. Okay. I can plug this in. Not sure. I think this is the. I think that's off. I'll find out in a moment. Well, I should have the cord down at the back. It's not a good idea to have the cord too close to the antenna. Although I guess they're designed that way, so probably okay. Blew up yet. Okay, so let's turn this on and see what happens. Well, one dialight works. It's not going to cooperate, I guess. It's a bit stuck in there. Got something. Put a knob on here. There's going to be some airflow sensors. Knob on. Looks like a knob on tuning. I have no idea which band this is in. Obviously, I might have dropped out, but I don't hear any static. There we go.
You out there, hopefully you can hear us well. But we checked the Drudge Report, and this also goes to what we're going to be talking about.
Try to obey the world.
We depend on Saudi Arabia for support. And he was
some dirt in the tuning capacitor there. I'll have to clean that out, but everything seems to be working. I'm gonna find that music station again. It's the tone.
Still going. Of the gospel and the Lord Jesus.
Maybe the end there. We're slipping a little bit, but looks like we're just about at the end. Okay, so that's definitely promising. I think next I'm going to replace all the other paper capacitors in there. I know that the radio works, so like I have no concerns about the power transform or anything like that, so it's definitely worth investing the rest of the capacitors into this. So I think I'll do that, and we'll see if any performance improvements, if we gain any performance improvements from that. And also I'll see about cleaning. It looks like there's some dirt in the tuning capacitor that may be preventing its full motion and kind of shorting it out at the high end. So definitely promising though. Okay, so I've got this all recapped here. This actually wasn't too bad to work on. The only two that were tight were there's two down here on this terminal strip. So I just slipped this coil. You can slide it up and off and out of the way, and it was pretty easy to replace those then. It's a little bit difficult because they're right up against the wall there, but overall not bad. There's a, like, show this clip here. You can just pull that back a little bit enough to get over this little lip, and then it just slides up and off. And when you do that, then the wires are long enough that you can move it like up into this area and get at these capacitors. So that wasn't too bad, and the rest were pretty much out in the open. I was able to reuse these old wire straps here, not really wire, but metal straps. You just slide through the hole, and then you fold it over, and then fold it over the bottom, and then it keeps these tight. Usually what happens is the old capacitors are so much bigger than the new ones that you can't get these straps tight enough to work. But in this case, it actually worked out pretty well. So the diameter of this is a 22, and the original one was a 16. The diameter is, not that far off. And then down here there were 2 8s, and I put in 2 10s. These ones are pretty. There's a much bigger size difference there, but still the strap was tight enough to work. So that's good. We'll flip this down and try and power it up and see what we get. Okay, so the antenna's hooked back up, plugged in. We're going to take a look at this dial light too. I'm sure I don't have any replacements for that, but I'll have to order some. Not sure what band we're on. Just I feel a bit of dirt left in the tuning capacitor.
Milestone to come about, you want to make sure you've got plenty of money in the bank and you're not subject to the swings of the market.
The outside is cutting out there, so maybe there's still some dirt left in the tuning capacitor. I'll clean it up some more. Sounds like it might be either shorting out or breaking connection entirely right at that point.
I'll ask Jill. At Jill.
held the Packers to a field goal.
They want to maybe rent their house out as,
National competition for your business.
Here again was a common theme in the film Bravo.
Thank you all for praying. I mean, 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Or you could make your...
And that's the end of the tuning capacitor travel right there. So let's try out the other band. Not sure we'll pick up anything on here or not. There's something there. And tuning capacitor goes out at the same place, or you also have cuts out at the same place. So take a second look at that tuning capacitor, but otherwise, definitely satisfied with that performance. As you can see, I've glued the speaker foam back on. Looks like it might have shrank a little bit over the years. There's a gap here now, but I think it'll be sufficient. I just want to make sure that it's out of the way of the cone, and it's not going to be rubbing on the cone. And that should hold it in place, hopefully. So, also, I think I've identified the issue with the tuning capacitor. Taking these tubes out so I can look in this way. What I did was I connected my meter from here to ground, and then just turned the tuning capacitor and checked for shorts. And it turned out that in fact this side of the tuning capacitor is shorting. So I tried to identify like the exact point where it was shorting, and then I opened it back up and then took a look at the fins at the shorting point. See if I can, maybe you're going to be able to see this, but right at the very top of this fin, there's a little tiny shiny mark where it looks like it might have been rubbing. So I just took some pliers and bent this back a little bit, and that seems to have resolved the issue. The tuning capacitor no longer shorts anymore. I still have to try it with the radio and make sure that it's going to tune through that region, but the short is gone at least. So that's hopefully going to fix that. Technically, bending that a little bit may throw the adjustment off for that fin, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's a very minimal movement, so it should still work. I mean, it wasn't going to work with that bent in anyway, so it'd be better than it was. So I'm gonna put this back in the cabinet, I think, and should be about it for this one then. Can try it in the cabinet. As you can see, it is now dark. I did get that dial lamp to work once, but oh, there it goes. Camera is not focusing. There we go.
Dairy products, and if I were you, I would dead stop eggs and poultry.
info for sale on the dark web. In North...
I say they missed the playoffs.
And they even let me into their house.
Viciously attacked the Saudi Arabians and caused billions. Highlights interesting aspect of that.
Both stations divided together though.
Quarterback offensive weapon in the game.
Part of the Cougars more so than a credit to much of what he still is.
Indianapolis Colts. So they have a tied record right now.
As a consequence, they must impeach him so that we don't have a vote.
As you can see, it's no longer cutting out here like it was before with these monitoring stations up here that we're getting now. So let's switch over to shortwave. See if we get anything there. I see nothing on shortwave. There was a ground station earlier, but it doesn't seem to be there now. It's probably something digital. Oh well. Not quite sure what the hum is. Some kind of interference, but that wasn't there earlier either, I don't think. So I'm not quite sure we're getting it now. Pretty pronounced down at the low end. Sometimes it makes a difference if you take a little bit less hum that way. Definitely. So the antenna in here is directional. So if the hum, is facing that direction, it's going to be picked up more this way than if you turn it sideways, it will be less prominent. Anyway. Definitely seems like it's working 100% now, I'd say. We didn't get anything on shortwave, but we did get something earlier, so maybe there's just no stations in this particular band active right now. But Anyway, I think that's going to be about it for now. I can take a look at the tubes. I'm not sure if these block build tubes glow that much. Oh yeah, they do a little bit. Because you can't look for the tops because the ghettos are all on the tops of them, but there's a little bit of glow reflecting off the bottom there. Those two look pretty dark. You can't see much in those ones. Of course, the rectifier tube is nice and bright. The output tube is pretty dim though. But anyway, and that's going to be about it for this one. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.